Hi friends, my name is Katie. Welcome back to my channel, Life Between Words. I'm going to talk to you today about my plans for middle grade March. My reading plans for middle grade March. In the month of March, I plan to read exclusively middle grade books. That means that I am putting on hold my 2021 general fiction and nonfiction TBR, which I still haven't talked to you guys about. Have the videos, haven't done anything with them. I don't know, such is life. Nevertheless, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about my plans for middle grade March, which I'm super excited about. So I'm going to read only middle grade novels. I am also mainly working off of our prompts in choosing the books that I want to read this month. So I've got a few different books for each prompt. I have a lot of books here, and I don't know whether I'm going to be able to get to them all. Likely not, because something always comes up in March that derails my plans for reading. So I never read as many middle grade books as I want to, even though I probably could. Because they're middle grade, you can get through them faster. Anyway, the first book that I'll mention is our group read for March, and that's called The Brave by James Byrd. This is about a boy named Colin who has some type of OCD, although it's never named in the novel. Colin lives with his father, and his father decides to send him to live with his mother on an Ojibwe reservation in northern Minnesota, like the Duluth area. We'll be discussing it at the end of the month in a live on YouTube. The first prompt that I'm going to talk about, and the books that I've chosen for that, is a book written in the year, no, not the year, a book written in the decade you were born. So I was born in the 80s, and for those of you who have tried to fulfill this prompt, it is hard to find quality middle grade books written in the 80s. Most lists are filled with things like Babysitter's Club and Goosebumps, like R.L. Stine books, and while those books have their place, and while I did read those books in the 90s when I was a middle grader, those are not the kind of books that I like to consume as an adult middle grade reader. So there's just kind of a dearth of good books from the 80s, but I did find a few that I haven't read, but the one that I own that I haven't read is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. This is a fantasy novel about a girl named Sophie who, I think she gets cursed. She gets a spell gets put on her that transforms her into an old lady, and she needs to figure out how to break this curse upon her. So she has to go find this castle, which is on the cover of the book, Howl's Moving Castle, so I assume that it moves around. This was made into a Studio Ghibli film that's much beloved, which I have never seen. So I am going into the story very fresh and very blind, and I'm really eager because I've heard great things. Another book that I'd like to read for this prompt, I'm cheating a little bit because this is not a book that was written in the 80s. However, it is set in the 80s, so I'm squeaking it in. And that's The Dream of Space by Erin Entrada Kelly. This book came out last year. This is an ARC copy of it, and I've heard really good things about this book. In fact, I've heard better things about this book than the book she wrote that won the Newbery, which I also own but haven't read yet. This book follows 3 different characters, and it follows them in the few weeks that lead up to the Space Shuttle Challenger's launch. The characters that we follow are Cash, Fitch, and Bird Nelson Thomas. So it sounds like maybe they're siblings. So a pitch-perfect middle grade novel about family, friendship, tragedy, science, and exploration. So this one would also work for the family prompt that we have created. Another prompt that I have set out to fulfill is a book that features an adventure or a road trip. The first one I'm choosing is really an obvious choice, and that's The Watsons Go to Birmingham 1963. I have always, or for a long time, oh, someone sent me a boxer. I've heard really phenomenal things about Christopher Paul Curtis's novels, and I'm so excited to read one. This is about the hilarious world of 10-year-old Kenny and his family, the Weird Watsons. They live in Flint, and they decide to take a trip to Birmingham, Alabama, and as you can imagine, this takes place in 1963, so like the heart of the civil rights movement, and so I think the world looks very different from the place they're from, Flint, Michigan, to life in the South. This next book is more adventurous than it is a road trip. but I'm so excited to read it. I have lots of books by Emma Carroll. She is an English author, and so I don't think that many Americans read or even know about her books, but I think her books just sound absolutely delightful. She has been unofficially dubbed the queen of middle grade historical fiction. This book is called The Girl Who Walked on Air, and it's a circus story. And oh my gosh, I love a good circus story. This is about Louis Reynolds, whose dream is to be a circus showstopper. Her tightrope talents put the finest performers to shame, yet the path to fame is a rocky one. So this is more adventurous because she wants to become a world-renowned tightrope walker. A couple things that happen in this book that have wet my whistle. She witnesses a terrible accident, she meets two mysterious strangers, she has to cross Niagara Falls, and she has to look death square in the eye. Oh, doesn't this book just sound absolutely delightful? I cannot wait to read it. We also have the challenge of reading a book that is a retelling of a fairy tale or has a very fairy tale vibe. I have one for each of those, actually. So the first one is a straight up fairy tale retelling, and that's Rump, the True Story of Rumpelstiltskin by Liesl Shurtleff. As you can imagine from the title, this is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. Gosh, I loved that fairy tale growing up. I cannot wait to read Liesl Shurtleff's take on it. Apparently, she turns Rumpelstiltskin, or Rump as he's known in this book, into a very sympathetic character, and I can't wait to read it. It just sounds like so much fun. The next one is not a straight fairy tale retelling. But it is a book with a strong fairy tale vibe. Like I get a strong fairy tale vibe sense from this book, and that's called A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. And oh my word, look at this beautiful cover. Oh, the cover alone makes me just want to pick up this book and get lost inside of it. This is about three sisters who are trapped by an ancient curse, three magical objects with the power to change their fate, and can they change this curse? This is at least a duology, although now that I think about it, there might be a third book that has come out. But gosh, I can't wait to read it. It just looks really magical and fun. The fourth prompt that I aim to fulfill is a book with a strong family or found family. So the first one is a classic that I have never read in my life. So many people have read this book. I have not. It won the Newbery Medal probably in the 50s. I'm not sure. Let's see when it was first written. It was first written in the 70s. Wow, I would have thought it was older than that. Okay, I'm just going to tell you what book it is. It's Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor. I'm pretty sure, even though it was written in the 70s, I think it takes place in the 30s, maybe even before, but this follows the Logan family. And this is a whole series of books, apparently. I actually own them all now because I just have a feeling that I'm going to love this story. This follows Cassie Logan and her family during one turbulent year. In particular, it follows a year in which a white girl humiliates Cassie because she is black. And during this year, Cassie learns why land is so important to her family. This blurb I just love. It's from the New York Times Book Review. It says, Taylor writes not with rancor or bitterness of indignities, but with pride, strength, and respect for humanity. Doesn't that just sound incredible? Okay, I have two more books actually for this prompt. The first is Rooftoppers by Katherine Rundell. I have a lot of Katherine Rundell books and I haven't read any of them. Rooftoppers is about an orphan named Sophie who has survived a shipwreck, and she ends up being brought up by a loving bachelor named Charles. But when a child services organization threatens to remove Sophie from Charles to an orphanage, she and Charles have to go on the run. So that's basically all I know about this book, but I have heard amazing things about Katherine Rundell, and I'm so sad I haven't read her yet, so hopefully this is the year that that will be remedied. Finally, I really, really want to continue on with my Wing Feather Saga books. I am on book 3. It is called The Monster in the Hollows, and this follows the Igby family. And I can't really tell you much more about what this book in particular is about because it would ruin the first two books in which a lot takes place. Needless to say, this definitely fulfills the prompt of strong family because the Igbys are a very close-knit family. And this book, I think, deals with a struggle that this family is having because of something that happened at the end of the second book. And that's all I'll say. But I'm really, really enjoying this quartet. And yeah, it's time for me to move on in the series. We still have to meet the challenge of a silhouette on the cover. I have 2 books for this. The first is from another author that I have wanted to read from for a very long time. I own all of her books and haven't read any of them. That's Wolf Hollow by Lauren Wolk. This takes place, I think, post-World War I, pre-World War II, and the bullying that one little girl, Annabelle, witnesses of a World War I veteran, I think. So it's up to Annabelle to stand up to the injustice that she witnesses at the hands of Betty. I kept forgetting her name. Anyway, I've heard such good things about Lauren Wolk. Pretty much any book with that Newbery seal of approval is a winner in my book. And then the other book that I have with a silhouette on the cover is called Sophie's War by Avi. This is a Revolutionary War book. Shockingly, I have never read a book that takes place during the Revolutionary War, and I cannot wait to read this book. I think this is a kind of a newer Avi book. Avi has written so many children's books. Yeah, this one was written in 2012, but he was writing books when I was a kid, and one of my favorites growing up was called The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle. Couldn't tell you what that book was about, but I do remember loving it. This book takes place during the Revolutionary War, and it follows Sophie Calderwood. Her older brother is a soldier, and he's been taken captive by the British and held on I guess a prisoner of war ship, and he's treated miserably. So Sophie decides to avenge his brutal treatment and help advance the cause of the Patriots. That's about all I know about this book, but I do love Avi's writing, and I'm really eager to pick this one up. Then finally, this book probably does fit a few of the prompts, although I don't have it set for any of the prompts, and that's When You Trap a Tiger by Tay Keller. This won the Newbery Award this year, so it doesn't even have the gold sticker on it yet, but I'm so excited to read it. This could, I think, potentially fulfill the prompt of both fairy tale vibe and family, strong family, because this book is about Lily. Lily and her family move in with her sick grandmother, and when that happens, a magical tiger straight out of her Halmoni's Korean folk tales arrives, which prompts Lily to unravel a family secret. So, very excited to read this one. There's a blurb on the back that says, "As unique as it is universal, Keller's writing shimmers with magic, heart, and hope. Those 3 words spark joy in my heart." I cannot wait to read this book. So that's the final book that I have planned to read for middle grade March. That's a lot of books, my friends, and I never read this many, so I don't know, we'll see. They are all middle grade. I can get through them pretty quickly, but that's only if nothing derails me during the month of March. And March, historically, for me, has been a tempestuous month. I mean, last year it was tempestuous for all of us. So let's see. I'm going to count, and then I'm going to hold the books up. 13 books. That's a lot of books, my friends. If you are participating in middle grade March, I would love to hear what's on your TBR. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know how you are fulfilling some of these challenges. And that's all, my friends. March is almost here. Let's get excited. If you want to know more about middle grade March, please check out my announcement video or the announcement videos from my co-hosts, Krista and Amanda. I will try to remember to link their channels down below. But the announcement video will tell you all of the prompts and all of the different things that we have planned for the month of March. And that's all. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye!